what has been the capacity addition when it comes to power generation in this country?
Let's look at it as a whole, as a system. And as a whole, as a system, in the past five or 6 odd years, we've transformed the power sector. We've actually transformed it. It's totally different from what it was, in 2014, 2015. It's totally different. We were power deficit when our government came into office. We are power deficit. You would remember, probably you would be in school or college, the long hours of load shedding, the blackouts, the deficiency of power in peak terms was almost about 13-14% in 2011, 2012. In 13, it came down to about 10% or so, but we've now brought it down to almost zero. We've transformed our country from a power deficit country to a power surplus country. We added 173,000 megawatts of capacity. 173,000 megawatts of capacity in the from 2015 onwards till date. And today we export power to Bangladesh, to Nepal, to Myanmar. We export power. Our total installed capacity today is 408,000 megawatts. That is 408,000 megawatts. And our peak demand, which has been reached, has been about in the region of 215,000 megawatts, to 216, 217. That's the peak demand which has been reached. So that is one transformation which has taken place. Those long hours have gone. But this was not the only thing which did it. This was not the only thing which did it. Other inputs were required as well. You could generate power, but you needed to transfer it to different corners of our country. So you generate power where the sources of power are. Whether it is the sun shining in Rajasthan, you generate there, solar there, or the wind blowing in some part of the country, you generate wind there, or you generate thermal power in the coal belt, right? But you have to transfer it to throughout the country, especially to the major loads. So you have to transport the power. Now that again is something which we did. We have connected the whole country into one grid running on one frequency. We added, I think, almost about 169,000 circuit kilometers. And today we can transfer 112,000 megawatts from one corner of the country to another. You can now generate power in Guwahati or Kamrup or wherever, and transfer it to Kanyakumari or across the country to the remotest corner of Gujarat. Or similarly, you can generate power in Leh Ladakh and transfer it to wherever you want. So that's another thing which we did. This is the largest single integrated grid in the world. There are other larger countries, but they don't have, the grids are not integrated. The third thing which we did, that this itself was not sufficient. The third thing which had to be done was to strengthen the distribution system. So we spent in the past 5 years or so that I've been here about 2,04,000 crores. We got schemes from the states, we sanctioned those schemes, and then we got them implemented. So we added about 2,900 new substations. We upgraded almost about 3,980 substations, the older substations, we upgraded them. We changed or added about 8.5 lakh circuit kilometers of HT lines and LT lines. About 750,000 transformers. So we revamped the distribution sector. Now because of that, now you could reach every village and every home. But that was another thing which required doing. Reaching every village and every home. And that's what we did. Decades after independence, thousands of villages, they were not connected to electricity. When our government came into office, thousands and thousands, we connected every village, and we connected every hamlet, and we connected every home. We connected 29 million homes in 19 months. 29 million homes in 19 months, and hundreds of thousands of hamlets. And I got certificates. I took certificates from every state that every home which existed on the date we launched the program, all those homes have been connected. 29 million in 19 months. This was the largest expansion of access in the shortest time frame ever in the history of electricity, and this is what the International Energy Agency said, not me. Right? So we've transformed our country from power deficit to power surplus. We've put in place a transmission system to be able to transfer it to every corner of the country. You can generate power wherever and sell wherever, and we have strengthened distribution system. Now all these has resulted in tangible terms in the availability of power in rural areas going up from over 12 and a half hours in 2015 to 22 and a half hours today. So I mean the power sector is transformed. Now that is one part of the transformation, but that's not the only part. The other part of the transformation of the power sector is the power, the type of power, is the power transition to renewables, power transition to green. Now the whole world is worried about environment. So are we. Despite the fact that our contribution to the decline of the environment, to the deterioration of the environment has been minimal. An average Indian emits one third of what the whole world emits on an average. Our per capita emissions are one third of the global average. One third of the global average, mind you. The developed countries per capita emissions are 3 times, 4 times, 6 times the global average. Now that is the difference. So a developed country which is emitting 6 times the global average is emitting 18 times what an average Indian emits. The whole carbon load on the atmosphere, which has caused this rise in temperature by about 0.89 degrees. Now the developed countries are responsible for 85% of that. We are responsible for only 3.4% of that. All the historical emissions which are there, I mean, they don't dissipate, and then the half-life of carbon is thousands and thousands of years. So, but our contribution to that is just 3.4%, whereas our population is 17.5% of the world population, as you are well aware. So we have not caused what the present mess, but yet we believe that environment is important. Our Prime Minister believes our environment is important, our government believes the environment. So we decided that we shall take steps about it. We will not only talk as most developed countries have been doing, we will take steps about it. So we pledged in COP21 in Paris that by 2030, 40% of our power generation capacity will come from non-fossil sources. That means non-carbon sources, which means no coal. Today, 42% of our power generation capacity is non-fossil. 42% of my capacity is non-fossil. That means renewable and nuclear energy. Nuclear energy is just about 6,800 megawatts, and the remaining 166,000 megawatts is renewables, solar, wind. We have we are the only country which achieved what it pledged to achieve by 2030, 9 years in advance. We achieved it in November 21, and no other country has carried out a transformation on such a scale at such speed. So nobody can talk with us. I mean, by and large, they're all on the deficit because we walk the talk. We do what we pledged to do. We've done, in fact, done more than what we pledged to do. And that revolution is ongoing. So we had first said 40% of our capacity will be non-fossil by 2030. Now we have increased that to 50%. It will be non-fossil by 2030, and we shall overachieve that. We shall cross 50% well before 2030. So that's the pace of transition which is happening. That's not the only one. One is how you generate your energy, generating electricity. So we are making that non-carbon. The other is also how much energy do you spend and how much do you emit for each unit of product. That's called specific energy consumption or specific emission, that per unit of product. So we brought that down. We had pledged in COP21 in Paris that by 2030 we will reduce the emissions intensity of our economy by 33 to 35%. Now we are already crossed 30%, and we are in 2022. We will cross that as well. So we have upped that, and we have said that by 2030 we will have reduced the emissions intensity of our economy by 45%, even though we are one of the lowest emitters in the world. So that again is something we are far ahead of the world. We had this Ujala program. Uh, in that, we added or replaced the conventional lighting systems with LED on such a scale which the world has not seen. And that has resulted in a reduction of CO2 emissions by 103,000 103 million tons of CO2 per annum, the reduction we have carried out, only because of LED. That results in a reduction in energy consumption and therefore reduction in emissions. Similarly, we have a program for industry called Perform Achieve Trade. Now, in that we set standards for the industry. Look at the current consumption of energy per unit of product and the emissions per unit of product, and then we set standards. And if they do not achieve the standards, they are penalized. If they overachieve the standards, they get energy saving certificates. So those who are not able to achieve the standard, they buy energy saving certificates or they have to give the penalty. So that is called Perform Achieve Trade. That is the unique program. Now that has resulted in a reduction of CO2 emissions in the industry by 106 million tons per annum. The different countries have come and studied that programs. We have the labeling, star labeling program for appliances, 5-star, 4-star, etc. That's our program. And now, so again, we rate the appliances, television, air conditioner, you name it. And so if you are 1-star, then in 2 years you will be wiped out. Then you will lose your permission. And 2-star will become 1-star, like that. 5-star will become 4-star. As the technology increases, so the star rating changes. And what was star 1 gets replaced, and you can't make it anymore. You can't sell it anymore. Now that has resulted in a reduction of CO2 emissions by 56 million tons. So I mean, we have emerged as world leaders. We've truly transformed the power sector. The next frontier is green hydrogen. So we are looking at that.
Well, sir, I understand that India has now extended its G20 presidency as well, and next year we have the summit in 2023, New Delhi, month of September, I believe. With this strong example of performance in the domestic economy and India being a leading consumer and now a net exporter of power, how do you see us addressing the world on that stage?
When we talk in energy, we talk from a position of somebody who's done something, who's actually done it, who's not only talking. And so that gives a different gravitas to what we are saying. Now, we believe that the direction we have followed is the correct direction, and we will share our experience with them. They would like us to share our experiences with them, both in access as well as in energy transition. And both are actually a part of sustainable development goals. We'll share what we did, and what we did, other people can do. That is how we see it. Except the very poorest countries, they will need assistance. The developed countries will have to come forward and give that assistance to the poorer countries in Africa, etc., where access has not happened, where people are still deprived of electricity. So they'll need to walk the talk in terms of financing, both access as well as transition. As far as we are concerned, we are getting huge amount of investments. All my bids are hotly contested. We have emerged as the most attractive destination for investment in renewables in the world. That's what Bloomberg says, not me. So as far as we are concerned, we are happy. So I don't have a problem of finances. But the other poorer countries do have. So if the world really truly, of all the countries really and truly want to solve both the problem of access and also solve the problem of decarbonization, they'll have to come forward and assist those countries. It can't happen by itself.
So I understand also that you managed to turn around the DISCOM debt. 20,000 crore rupees of interest cost savings have been achieved.
Absolutely. In fact, the DISCOM losses, which was ruling at almost 21.6% aggregate throughout the country. Some are in profit, some are in loss that time. Most are in loss. Most government discoms are in loss. Now we have reduced that losses. We call it ATLC losses, aggregate technical and commercial losses, by 5%. So we brought it down to 17%. 17%. That's good.
That's very good.
And nobody could believe that it would happen, but it has happened because we were determined that it will happen. And we said no quarter, we shall give no quarter. So you want any loans? But if you will not get it if you are making losses. If you are making losses, you will get it only if you decide that okay, I will reduce my losses and wipe it out. And if you write down the steps which you will take to reduce and wipe out those losses, you will get your government's signature on those steps, and then come to us, we will give you loans. Similarly, you want funds for strengthening your system, under our schemes, similar conditions. So they all have to follow, they all have to comply, they are doing it.
So you have linked.
And so the discom turnaround is another major sort of step.
So it seems you have linked, managed to couple infrastructure
And-
works with
Yes,
finance,
yes,
REC,
absolutely,
and
absolutely. So
PFC
all
have.
that's what I told all the states, that what has been happening is that your distribution companies have been loss making. Now, because you make losses, whatever money we spend goes down into a bottomless well. Because we give you money, we spend money for helping you set up, stations, substations, grid stations. We give you money to replace ST lines, LT lines. But you can't, we give you money to buy transformers, but you can't maintain them because your discoms are making losses. So we will not give you any money under our schemes unless and until you do those things which I said. You first identify the causes of losses, undertake to remove those causes, the steps which you will take, give us your signature on that, and then we will lend you. So that is working. Then that was one step. The other step, of course, was that those losses were financed in part by taking loans and in part by keeping GenCo's dues. So you consume electricity, but you don't pay for it, so you finance it. Now that made the generation sick. You would have heard before I joined, when I joined, number of units were generation units were sick, etc. So the investment had stopped coming. So we said this can't work. My demand is growing. That is the third story which I'll tell you, which you need to focus on. I mean, it's a real story. I mean, it's a great story. That demand. I'll tell you right now. So my demand in November grew by 12%. In this year, my demand has been growing by 10%, 10.6%. I mean, huge. On a daily basis, my demand is about 20,000 megawatts to 25,000 megawatts more than the corresponding day of the last year. That's such a huge demand. And have you seen any load shedding anywhere? Now, this growth, this huge demand growth, means that my demand will double by 2030, right? So right now we consume about 1,450 billion units. By 2030 it will be 2,900 billion, double. So I'll have to add. Today my capacity is 408 gigawatts, that is 408,000 megawatts. So by 2030 it has to be 800,000 megawatts, right?
Right.
Okay, so investment has to come, then the capacity will come. How will investment come if you don't get paid? Suppose you want to invest in generating electricity, will you do so? If you know that you will invest in generating electricity, you will take a loan, you will generate electricity, sell it to the discoms, and they won't pay you, will you invest? No. So this was critical. So we decided that okay, we put in place a mechanism whereby if you don't pay within the stipulated time, suppose, and this is built into the system now, automatic, digital. If you don't pay, then automatically your connection to the power exchange goes off. So you cannot buy power on a day-to-day basis from the exchange. You can of course draw your long-term from under your long-term contract. That for long-term access, okay. But only for the next 30 days. After that, your long-term access gets curtailed by 10%, and 10% every month that you delay paying, so that your state will become progressively dark, and it happens automatically. So when we put this into place, and then in 13 states, 13 discoms, in almost what 10, 11 states, the lights switched off, right? So there were, telephone calls. I said, sorry, it's automatic. I can't. Nobody can intervene. They all paid, and they are all paying on time. So now the indebtedness is coming down. We've transformed. So the other story, as I said, was about the power demand. The power demand increasing at this pace. That is the result of our economy growing, and it is the result of three things: our economy growing. But the first is the result of empowering 2 crore 90 lakh households whom you connected, right?
Right.
They started consuming. Second, the other people were connected, but they had not reached their peak consumption. You know why? Because of load shedding. If electricity is not there, how do you consume? We sort of now there is no load shedding. We put goodbye to that system. We made our system surplus. No load shedding, so the consumption is gone. Third, economy growing, so consumption is gone. Now, this is a very difficult time for the world in energy terms. You go to Germany, the price of electricity has gone up 5 times, right? You go to United Kingdom, it's gone up 6 times. You go to wherever, it's gone up 5 times, 6 times, 7 times. There are blackouts here and there in the development. Has it happened in India, despite such a huge surge in demand? No. Now that is the story.
So Atmanirbharta is what the story is.
We have managed our power sector better than they have been able to. I mean, touch wood, God's grace. But we did.
So do tell us
Now,
about.
the challenge is not over, mind you. The demand is growing, it will keep growing. So the challenge is a continuing challenge. Every day I look at the report and I see that my demand is there. I see how much coal has come, how much coal I have consumed. Tell me, you are.
But do tell us about green hydrogen. How do you see that as something that will meet the demand that we are seeing on a continuing basis all the way till 2030?
You see, electricity is one side of it, is one part of your energy consumption. There are other parts of your energy consumption. Now, they also have to be decarbonized if you want to stop emissions. So you make steel, you use coal, right? Now you have to move away from that steel. You have to move towards green steel, which will require green hydrogen. So the green hydrogen, green ammonia will become feedstock instead of coal. You will not have to import coal because you have so much of renewable energy. You will be able to make green hydrogen cheap and export green hydrogen. Everybody will need green hydrogen because everybody is going to decarbonize. Everybody is saying that I will get to net zero in year so and so year. You need green hydrogen for that. The mobility, or let's say fertilizers, you use ammonia, which comes from natural gas, which again releases carbon dioxide. Now you have to make ammonia from green hydrogen. So the ammonia will go green, so that the fertilizer goes green. Right? Then let's say ships, mobility, they'll get powered by green energy, green ammonia. So the whole world is going to go green. Now that requires green hydrogen, green ammonia. And we believe that we are uniquely placed because of this huge capacity we have added of renewable energy, and because we are uniquely placed for providing that green hydrogen and green ammonia at lower prices than the other countries. Some countries have come forward with huge subsidies for their own domestic green hydrogen production. The United States, for example, has announced subsidies as much as $3 per kilogram of green hydrogen. That's the cost of production, for God's sake. I do believe it's a violation of the WTO rules. But that apart, we have to compete. We'll compete. The objective is to emerge as an exporter of energy. We have been importer of energy long enough, right?